So the Six Nations 2022 is over. France are the victors, but I'm going to go through the report cards for the 4 teams I follow the most closely: Ireland, England, Scotland and Wales. And of course I'm going to talk about France and Italy along the way as well. So let's start with second place Ireland. A very good tournament for them. I don't think there's any doubt they were the second best team. I don't think there's any doubt either that they weren't quite as good as France, but they came pretty close and they were quite a long way above all the rest. So let's have a look at these games and what themes emerged. Starting off with game 1, Ireland 29, Wales 7. A seriously impressive start, especially because they fell straight back into their systems that they'd demonstrated so well in the autumn. So connected, everyone on the same wavelength. That's what I love about Ireland the most at the moment. Some really impressive individual performances. The likes of Porter was looking absolutely fantastic. And probably, he got injured later in the tournament, but he was probably looking better than Furlong, to be honest, which is saying something. Their ruck speed especially is incredibly high, and Gibson Park so quick at getting to the ball, he was getting it away very quickly, they were clearing it nice and quick, and that just set up their attack so perfectly for their multi-phase attack, and they were going forward, and all the different options they run off their systems. Sexton's in his element, in his armchair, they were looking great. Plus, they combine that with aggressive defensive line speed and dominant tackles. That's the recipe for a good performance, and it was far too good for Wales, who didn't even come close. And again, players like Van der Fleer absolutely running rampant, so a perfect start for Ireland. Now, in the end, Game 2 lived up to its billing as the decider for the Six Nations. France versus Ireland. Both teams had had a warm-up game. Ireland looking probably more impressive in their warm-up game, but it was France who got the spoils, 30-24. It was a great game. What we saw was 2 high-quality sides smashing into each other, largely negating the flow of each other, but it was still truly impressive to see. Carberry was at 10, which is interesting. Obviously, Sexton not available there. He played pretty well, but would it have been different if Sexton was there? Well, we just don't know. Hansen scored that miracle try, taking the restart above his head. That was fantastic. Another standout in that game was the French counter-rucking, which is absolutely fantastic. The ruck contest was brilliant, but they stopped the Irish flow along with that high line speed. Certainly other sides will look at that and say, right, can we disrupt the Irish flow in attack? That's what we've got to do, like France did here. Dupont was on absolute fire, which was another key difference. But Ireland kept in it. They played well, they showed quality, and they show they are very close to France indeed. Then on to Game 3 for Ireland, and a huge win against Italy, 57-6. However, it was the weird one where Italy got that red card, which actually made them go down to 13 men. Have a look back on the match report for all the details there. And Ireland were actually pretty loose and not overly good, but they still scored 57 points, which you'd probably expect against 13-man Italy anyway. On to Game 4 then, the England game, away from home. And they beat England very well on the scoreboard. But it is another weird one. So 2 weird games in a row, with Yules going off incredibly early with a red card, which was absolutely his fault. Ireland, they really stuttered, to be honest, as England were a little bit inspired by that. But England ran out of puff, and then Ireland steamrolled them in the last 15-odd minutes and made a big score on the scoreboard. But certainly they made a bit of a meal out of that one. Certainly an experience for them to learn from indeed. Then on to Game 5, where they had to win to give themselves a shot, and they did very comfortably at home, put Scotland to bed 26-5. It was close up until half-time, and then Ireland pulled away. Scotland fell off, they're disappointed. But definitely the systems were right on point. Gibson Park was in his element again, low as he came back into the team in the Six Nations, looking very dangerous. And Sheehan, who had to replace Kelleher in the Six Nations as well, he certainly stood up and was counted. Good go forward from the forwards again. They look absolute class, but it was that loss to France that was the difference. But plenty of good things there and a bit to learn from as well. And what was good is they managed to rotate a few key players in and out without massive wholesale changes. So what's their best team, their best 23 at the moment if you were picking for a World Cup right now? I'm sure it might change a bit, but here it is. Porter, Kelleher and Furlong I think is definitely their first choice front row, with Sheehan, Healy and Bealham on the bench. Byrne and Ryan in the second row, well, that's certainly close. I think Henderson goes on the bench. Doris van der Fleer, Conan, easily their best back row, but I still think there's room in the summer and in the autumn to try a few more back row. At the moment, Omani takes that bench spot, but that could change, I think, next year. Or next season, I should say. At 9, Gibson Park has absolutely nailed down his place with another fantastic performance to follow up his autumn performance. Sexton still churns out the good performances, loves the go-forward ball, choosing all the right options. In the centres, it's a good fight. I don't think we saw Henshaw get a good crack at the whip, really, but Aki and Ringrose retain, but that could always change around, especially with Henshaw in the mix. On the wings, Lowe came back into the team and really said, yep, I am number one. Looks very assured and dangerous. Conway's all-round skills are great, although there's plenty of wingers to fight for those spots. Hansen was looking good as well. Keenan nailed on his 15 jersey for sure. And on the bench, I would say Murray, Carberry and Henshaw for now, but certainly question marks over the older guys there. Henderson, Omani, Murray maybe. They may change indeed. So let me know what you think of their strongest team and also the summary of how their Six Nations went and what you would draw from it. And I'll catch you next time.